Okay, so this is a surprise cemetery I found. I'm out in Windber, Pennsylvania, and it's the St. Mary's Roman Catholic Hungarian Church, 1919. The reason why it's a surprise to me is because my fiance is Hungarian, and I've been to Hungary several times, and fascinating to see that they have graveyards dedicated just to Hungarians, but there's more surprises in that too. So let me just show you real quick. So this is the newer section, and just an altar stone. The date says 1919, but I found older gravestones out here that are older than 1919. So I think what happened was, they just started, the Hungarians in particular, started burying their dead out here, and then they probably, I guess, sooner or later they dedicated to just the Hungarians. But like I said, this is the newer section here, and down bottom of this hill is the older section. That's where we're headed. So, but it's a pretty big area. And it's not just Hungarians. You have Polish here, mixed in with the Hungarians, of course. You have Polish, you have some Italian, you have Slovakians. It's different Slavic languages, people. Hungarian is not a Slavic language, but I think because, back in 1919, it was still the Austrian Hungarian Empire, and that lasted for a long time, that it was a huge nation. So all these other countries were part of the Austrian Hungarian Empire. So I'm not really going to look at these stones here. I'll look at a couple of them, I guess, but these are from the 1920s. But a lot of them are pretty ornate. I'll give you a clue here. So here's one here. This one looks Hungarian to me, but again, I don't speak Hungarian. 1888 to 1920 here. Janos, I don't know. I mean, I've heard that name before, Janos or Janos. I only speak a few Hungarian words, and it's a very difficult language to learn. It's not a Slavic language. Actually, the closest they came to was some words in the Finnish in Finland. Some of their words are similar to the Hungarian words, but just a few, it's not a lot. So the Hungarians have quite a culture. They've been in that area for around 1,000 years. You've probably heard of the Attila the Hun, which stands for Attila the Hungarian. Or at least that's what they think, So here we go. So again, this was dedicated in 1919, but there's a lot of gravestones here that are much older than 1919. And a lot of these you can't even read because I'm thinking they were from the 1800s, sometime in the 1800s. I'm looking for some here. This is 1904. So again, the Hungarian language, just let me give you a little bit of history lesson here. The Hungarian language, mostly nowadays Russia, this is also 1904. The now Russia was a lot of Hungarians came from that area, Caspian Sea, the northwest center of the Caspian Sea, and also where now Moscow sits. That used to be called the Big Hungarian place, or something like that. Don't hate me if I get any of these facts incorrectly. So, of course, that was before it was Russia. But those Hungarian speaking people that live there are no longer there. They say there's some still at the Caspian Sea area. This is 1920. 1920. So we're in Windber, Pennsylvania. It's 3 miles outside of Johnstown, Pennsylvania, where I currently live. So anyway, the Hungarian language is one of the hardest languages in the world, trust me. I cannot speak hardly any Hungarian. This looks like it's 1905 or 1908. And again, like I said, there's a lot of Slavic tombstones here because they were all part of the Austrian Hungarian Empire at the time when they came here. So what happened was you had different waves of Hungarians and other and not other but and Slavic speaking people come here in the 1800s. I think it was I'm looking at my notes here, folks. 1848, the Hungarians rose up against the Austrians. They wanted their independence. Even though they had the same name, the Austrians basically ruled everything. But, you know, the Hungarians did have some, you know, some power and stuff like that. But even during the times, they wanted autonomy, you know, complete freedom, you know. And so they lost that battle. So that during that time, the 1840s, 1848s, you know, a lot of Hungarians came here to work in the mines because Windber, Pennsylvania, has had one of the largest coal mines out here. The name Windber is backwards from Berwind, which were two brothers who basically started this town back in, I can't remember the exact date, but they started this town. And so, of course, everybody flocked here who came to this country to work. And this is really cool. No name or anything on it. So, again, like I said, there's a mixture out here. Hungarians, Slavic language, several different Slavic languages, which includes Polish, Slovakia. Here's 1911, and other countries here. Like I said, so I think they just said, okay, they were from the Austrian Hungarian Empire. They just put them all here, you know. And some of these dates are very similar. Like they'll have a lot of them from the 1917 and 1910. And I'm thinking those are probably from mining accidents where a lot of miners died at once and they just buried them all out here. So, okay, so let's get back to the history lessons real quick. So you know of Attila the Hun, which he basically went up against the Roman Empire. Back in, Attila the Hun was from 434 to 453. So we're talking way back when, you know. So he fought against the Roman Empire, but that doesn't mean Hungary started. I think a lot of them, in now Budapest, Hungary, a lot of them probably did settle way back then also, because when I was in Hungary, there are some Roman ruins out there, a lot of Roman ruins. So lots of history, folks. And also, if you ever get a chance, please go visit Budapest, because I'm telling you, it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It really is. It's very beautiful and safe. It's one of the safest cities in Europe too, believe it or not. You can go out there in the middle of the night, nobody's going to really bother you. I mean, crime happens everywhere, but I always felt very safe there. So here's 1909. So there are also a lot of famous Hungarians. So for one, the first Tarzan lived here in Windber, Pennsylvania. Let's see if this has a date. And his graveyard is not here, But the first Tarzan who lived here, he was Hungarian. He was, what do they call it? It used to be part of Hungary. Transylvania, which is now part of Romania. So after World War I, because the Austrian-Hungarian Empire was on the wrong side of the war, and after they lost, they took away a lot of, 2/3 of the country of Hungary. Hungary is not happy with that, and why would they be? So they lost 2/3 of their country, basically. So then, like I said, after World War I, after World War II, all these different wars, you had groups of people to leave the area, come here, and this is how we have Hungarians living in the United States now, and been here for a long, long time. And like I said, there are a lot of famous Hungarians. There's Tony Curtis, the old actor from a long time ago. He was Hungarian. Zsa Zsa Gabor, she was Hungarian. Lots and lots. I mean, I could read on. Peter Falk, who played Columbo. I'm giving my age away here because I used to watch Columbo. He's Hungarian. Even though I've been to Hungary and my fiance is Hungarian, it doesn't mean I can speak hardly any Hungarian or even recognize. I can recognize some of these names out here as Hungarian, or at least I think they're Hungarian, because we also have different Slavics, especially from Slovakia and stuff like that, who have Slovakian heritage, who live in Hungary and have Slovakian names. So I can recognize some of these names, but I can't tell you, oh, this one is definitely Slovakian, this one is Hungarian. Very few I can say, oh, that for sure is Hungarian. I can't really say it. So like here, Sariski, that's Polish, okay, but it's here in the middle of the Hungarian graveyards. So anyway, also there's a lot of famous Hungarians. In fact, the most recent were a woman who helped. If it wasn't for her, the Pfizer vaccine for COVID-19 would not have been approved or made available because of her work in the Pfizer vaccine. It made it available that humans could get this COVID shot. Let's see what else. So they had the first underground metro rail is in Hungary. It's still in use today in the whole world. Like the very first metro is in Hungary, in Budapest, the city of Budapest, their capital, and still operating. It's still the same car. I rode in it. Very cool, very cool. And so that's still in operation. The first car that was built was in Hungary. The ball pen was invented by the Hungarian. Vitamin C was invented by a Hungarian. Peroxide was invented by a Hungarian. Lots of, so also to let you know, per capita, there are more Hungarians who won the Nobel Peace Prize than anybody in the world. Did you know that? So they are proud people, smart people, very smart, very clever. Jesus, I mean, my fiance is probably the most clever woman I know, which is scary, but it's true. Don't tell her I told you this. So anyway, a lot of the Hungarians that I know have several degrees, PhDs, you name it, they got it. And I'm not talking just one or two, I'm talking several. Most of them speak several languages. Most Europeans speak several languages because they have to. I guess they learned it from the youth. So, 1912 or 1913, I can't tell. Anyway, so very old. Not the oldest I've seen, but definitely very old. So much history out here. And a lot of people, and there's still in Johnstown and Windber, you still have Hungarians who live out here. And I'm sure they don't have, maybe some of them don't even know their heritage very well. And they should, because it's a very proud heritage. And some of them do, so. Let's see. So, Hungary lost after World War I. Just finished up my history lessons here. Lost 2/3 of their country. And Transylvania, which is part of Romania now, is one of the biggest losses because that was the huge mining area. Mining industry was there in Transylvania. This must have been redone because that looks pretty new, but it was 1913. So the family must have, you can tell they did some work out here and replaced the nameplate. And I mean, it looks Hungarian to me, but I might be wrong. I don't know for sure. So so when they lost Transylvania, you know, a lot of the miners were out of work because they couldn't mine there anymore. So they came here to mine, and Windber gave them an opportunity to mine here because they needed miners. 1916. So very cool though, very cool. Also, during 1848, when they rose against when the Hungarians rose against the Austrians to have complete freedom, the Hungarian language was almost dead then. All the important people, they didn't speak Hungarian, most of them. They spoke French, they spoke German, and the language almost disappeared if it wasn't for the farmers and the peasants. They're the only ones that spoke Hungarian, really. So after the 1848 revolution against the Austrians, they decided that they need to save the language, and then they started to save the languages, the Hungarian language. And trust me, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's such a difficult language. You have no idea. Very, very difficult language. I've been there several times, and I know a few cuss words, and that's about it. I know a couple of words, but not many. So very cool though, very cool. So any of you Hungarians watching this, you might see some of your family names out here. Of course, some of these are so worn out, you can't read them. So before Russia was Russia, you had a lot of tribes out there, and Hungarian was one of the biggest tribes out there. But then you had the Tartars come out, which, if you know your history, the Tartars were the Mongolians. The Mongolian Empire started to rise, and they started killing everybody in their path, including the Hungarians. So they think that may be what happened to most of the big Hungarian communities out there. They just kind of disappeared, lost through war. So they had the Tartars, they had, of course, the Hungarian tribes back then were nomads, mostly. They had, like, you know. So anyway, there was a monk back in those days who roamed all over the place to try to find the origin of the Hungarian language. And that's how he found these, close to Moscow, that's how he found this tribe, this large, very large tribe out there that spoke Hungarian. But then the Tartars attacked his posse that were going out there and killed most of the monks. And I think just a couple of them survived. But they made it back to report back in Hungary where they were that, hey, we found some Hungarian speakers, and they drew a map of it. So if you look it up in history, you can find these old map pictures of the route that the monks took. So they don't know what really happened to those tribes. They just assumed that the Tartars came and killed most of them. And they had another tribe out there, and these tribes are still alive, the Coons. The Coons. Actually, my fiance's father was part Coon. And they have like a darker skin, not a dark skin, but like a tannish skin, you know, and they're slightly different than your average Hungarian. And they still have areas in Hungary and other parts of Europe, Eastern Europe mostly, that have these small Coon communities. Now, of course, the Mongolians, they all resettled back in Mongolia. Their empires shrunk. And I believe the the Tartars, the Mongolians. At one time, well, they were, obviously, and through history, I think they were one of the largest empires of the world at the time. But anyway, so, and you still have some Mongolians who live in Russia, now Russia. And even probably China too, I would imagine. Because China was the same thing. It had a bunch of different tribes out there. So anyway. And like I said, some of these stones here, you will see that they have similar dates. And my guess is that they had mining accidents. And, you know, a bunch of miners got killed at one time. And then they buried them out here. Let's see if we can. So we know that this graveyard is older than 1919. Oh, and another interesting fact about the graveyard, if you see over the hill, you'll see these spaces and they're divided by these little roads. They're different like religions out, I mean all Christian religions, but you know, one is a Catholic, Roman Catholic, the other might be a Greek Christian sect, and you know, so there's different sects out here. And of course this is the Hungarian and Austrian Empire people that came here when it was still the Empire, Austrian Hungarian Empire. So they put them all together in this section. And if you see, there's a little, well, not so little, but there's a little cross out there. And anyway, that is part of the Reformed Christian, which a lot of the Hungarians were. They have like two sects of Christian religion. One is Catholic and the other is Reformed Christians, they call themselves, I think. So finish up my history too. I'm looking at the notes and talking at the same time, so sometimes I go from one thing to the next. But to go back to, also you had 1956, the revolution against the Russians, because Russia was controlling Hungary after World War II. So they had this big fight in Hungary to kick out the Russians. And interestingly, my fiance has a couple of flats out there. They don't call them apartments out there, they call them flats. Here's an interesting one right here with a picture. And so she has shrapnel, metal shrapnel from bombs and bullets stuck in her doors, 1929, that you can't get them out. They are embedded in these very thick, like 3-inch thick wooden doors, very old wooden doors. You can't get the shrapnel out. You tried, you just can't get it out. Anyway, so during 1956, if you ever go to Budapest, you will see bullet holes and a lot of the buildings out there, like everywhere. Bullet holes and small little baseball-sized chips missing out of the bricks and stuff out of there because of all the fighting that went on in 1956 and also during World War II. Which is kind of cool. I mean, to see it, you know, to see it. And of course here you have a World War II veteran here who died during the war. I remember seeing this. And he was Polish. 1943 he died, World War II, so lots of respect. So I don't know if I'm missing anything. And like I said, some of these, I don't know which ones, but some of these are written in Slavic languages. Oh, here's a picture too. This could be Slovakian. I don't know. And I don't pretend to know. And like I said, it's, you know, it's there's several war veterans out here. Now we're getting into the newer stones, so I will 30s. I will go back towards this way. Yeah, it's hard to tell what language. I don't know which language it is. So it could be Polish, it could be Slovakian, could be Hungarian. I know the ski, S-K-Y, pretty sure that's Polish. So that's about it, folks. I'll show you this statue over here. I showed it to my fiance and she told me it looks like Christian reformed religion. And like I said, they have the two. Those are the two main religions out there in Hungary. Both Christian religions, but let's see what this says. Ah, priest, 1996. The sun is so bright, I can't tell. I think I got to get out of the sun. I can't even see the video when I'm in the hot sun like that. I can't even see what it's showing. So place is pretty big. You can see all. I mean, it's big. Spend a day out here easily. And like I said, you can see a lot of stones out here older than the 1919. I would imagine some of these are from the 1800s, possibly. Some of these stones are laying down. I'm sure sometimes they come out here and fix some of these stones. I've seen some repairs on some other stones. So I'd imagine they take a time out of the year to do repairs. Yeah, so like I said, some of these are so old you can't even read anything on them anymore. So that's it, folks. So I hope any of you Hungarians watching this got to enjoy some of it. This one's pretty old. Oh, 1910, okay. Born in 1866, it looks like. So, okay, that's gonna be it. Until next time. And as they say in Hungary, they say, when they say goodbye, they say see ya. So I'm gonna say see ya.